Hi there, I'm Jushan and my student ID is 36540722. Today I will analyze the grocery store incident. It applies the IRAC methodology to assess Asia's negligence claim against Kedasigar under Malaysian law and English law. Asia is a regular customer at Kedasigar, suffered physical injuries and financial losses after sleeping on an unaddressed liquid spill in the store's crowded aisles. Several employees were aware of the spill but failed to clean it or place warning signs. The core legal issue arising from the scenario revolved around the tort of negligence. Did Kedasigar owe Asia a duty of care as a customer? Did the store breach that duty by failing to address the spill? Did the breach cause Asia's injuries? Are the injuries not too remote for liability? And does Asia have any economic or financial loss? Both Malaysia and English law adhere to common law principle of negligence, with Malaysian law drawing significant influence from English tort, supplemented by statutory provision like the Civil Law Act 1956. The tort of negligence requires proving 4 key elements: duty of care, breach of duty, caution, and non-remote damage, alongside consideration of potential defenses. Establish that the defendant owes a duty of care to persons closely and directly affected by their acts, whom they ought reasonably to contemplate. This principle was refined by the threefold test in 1990, which requires reasonable foreseeability of harm, sufficient proximity between parties, and that imposing a duty is fair, just, and reasonable. And breach of duty of care. A breach occurs when a defendant fails to meet the reasonable man test outlines in this law in 1856, meaning they do not act as a prudent and reasonable person would in the same circumstance. And in the same, there's a law established at 1971 also said about that. The third one, causation. It requires satisfying the but-for test from this law in 1968. Plaintiff's harm would not have occurred but for the defendant's breach. Additionally, the breach must be a substantial and operating cause of the harm to establish labor causation. And for the remoteness of damage, the reasonable foreseeability test from remoteness. A defendant is only liable for harm that was reasonably foreseeable at the time of the breach, not for unforeseeable consequences. And the last one, economic or financial loss, is nothing to say. Okay. For application, duty of care is established first. Kedasigar employees knew the spill for extended period, and the reasonable store operator would anticipate that a customer would sleep on an unaddressed hazard in the crowded aisles. Second, proximity exists as Asia was a regular customer, creating a direct and close relationship between her and the store as the occupier of premise. Third, imposing a duty on grocery stores to maintain safe aisles is fair and reasonable, as stores control their premise and have a practical obligation to protect visitors. Both Malaysian and English law would recognize this duty. And the standard of care of Kedasigar is that of a reasonable grocery store, which would either clean a known spill or place warning signs to outlet customers. But they failed to take any action. So this inaction constitutes a clear breach of the duty of care. And next, causation is satisfied for applying the but-for test. Asia's fall and injuries would not have occurred if the store had cleaned the spill or warned her of the hazard. The stone's breach was the direct and immediate cause of her accident. Legally, the spill was a substantial and operating cause of her harm. The damage is not remote as well, because the liquid spill and suffering physical injuries is a reasonable foreseeable consequence of failing to address the hazard. So the damage is not too remote for liability. And Asia fall and caused the financial loss. So in conclusion, Asia has successfully established all 4 elements of negligence under both Malaysian law and English law. The soul owed her a duty of care and breached the duty and caused the foreseeable and non-remote injuries. As a result, Asia will win her lawsuit.